Rewind to the 70s. When mainframes ruled, the Rolling Stones rocked, a second spacecraft flew men to the moon on less computing power than your laptop. And 5 engineers in a distant corner of Germany jump from Big Blue and start rewriting the future. Plattner, Hop, Hector, Shearer, Wellenreuther, 5 unconventional men, friends, fellow IBMers.
We wanted to do something inside IBM, and they said, oh, we have other people who will do this, and we met them, and we said, okay, not with them, we cannot work with them, and we cannot work for them. So let us do it ourselves, so bye-bye.
Wir damals eine Marktlücke sehen darin, es gab noch keine Standardsoftware für das betriebliche Geschehen.
They saw a market that didn't exist yet, standardized software to integrate business processes. They launched SAP on a shoestring and never looked back.
The genius of SAP was to say, well, why don't we just sit down with some customers and actually embed ourselves in a real live company and see what they're doing and try to make something that helps them do their jobs.
Their enterprise computing vision propels them through the 80s and 90s. Swiftly takes SAP from card punchers to paradigm shifters to global market leaders.
R3 was amazingly revolutionary. It was an open software based, it ran on Unix systems, was pretty much the biggest, most comprehensive piece of client-server software anybody had ever made.
R3 changed the way business did business and put SAP at the center of mission-critical processes. It was followed by another leap, SAP NetWeaver, an open platform that fully integrated companies' SAP and non-SAP systems in one environment.
It really started re-architecting the entire enterprise software industry as a result.
Wir ständig vom Markt bestätigt wurden. Wir hatten Erfolge, wir haben immer neue Kunden gewonnen und es ging stetig aufwärts. Da war gar kein Platz dafür, Pessimist zu sein.
SAP rises globally across 130 countries and gives business a launching pad to grow and work globally.
One of the really intelligent and prescient moves that SAP made was to say, okay, we're not just going to be an applications company, we're also going to be a platform company. We're going to build that foundational element that allows us to extend into the enterprise and across the enterprise at a functional level.
Serving business from the inside out meant constantly listening, learning, evolving, from meshing systems with the internet to defining SOA standards.
You have to catch the right wave. You can be in the water all the day, so you miss the wave because you're talking to somebody else too long, you miss it. You have to be on that one. So we rode that wave. That timing was perfect.
The hyper-acceleration of commerce, the era of big data, the surge of social media, all 3 are converging, creating new challenges, new waves of opportunity.
The metabolism of the world is speeding up so much. Between the beginning of time and the year 2003, humanity created 5 exabytes of information. That's a lot. In the last 12 hours, we created 5 exabytes of information. The challenge is to derive meaning from it and to be able to analyze it.
Now business needs to unwire its people, needs millisecond fast answers, super simplified IT, frictionless operations, enterprise cloud power. And so, SAP HANA, a platform to get the right answers to the right people at the right time, on any device, by enabling complex analysis of big data that was never possible before, never practical.
We have millions of users all around the world, and it was clear to us that understanding in real time who these customers are, what they're using, and how they want to be served with Adobe software was going to be mission critical.
We have a new global information technology platform now for business leaders to reinvent their entire industries, and in doing so to position us to have a next century of wealth creation, of economic and social development.
With all what we know and the new technologies we have, which is the data management platform, which is the messaging platform, and the mobile infrastructure. With these 2 components and the application experience, we can redefine applications.
40 years ago, 5 men pioneered an industry and led a company that changed the way the world runs. That same breakthrough innovation powers SAP today and will help enterprises become the best-run businesses of the next 40 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lam, and the video. Now let's welcome our next speaker, Mr. Simon Dale, Head of Technology and Innovation from SAP Asia Pacific and Japan, to present his keynote speech on Business in a Moment, Innovate, Accelerate, Grow. Mr. Dale is going to share with us his unique insights into how SAP technologies can help enterprises take advantage of the decisive moments for successful business transformation that will change their outlook and perception for better business results. Mr. Dale, please.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all back again. This is, I think, my 10th year coming to Hong Kong with SAP. Very interesting video there. Hopefully, some of you may have learned a little bit more than usual. Thank you. Around the 40 years of SAP history. You know, we haven't stood still. We've ridden the wave of change along with the economy. And change is a natural thing. It's the way that everything works in the world. Right now, there's a lot of pressures on organizations, on economies. In the tech space, there's a lot of change. And there's many different areas. When you look at what's happening and take advantage of some of those changes. Oops, we've lost one. You then innovate, and you bring new value, and you bring new things. Guys, we've lost one of the, or we're losing. What? Loose connection somewhere. But all of these trends, I mean, there's the buzzwords in the tech industry, and I'm going to try and avoid too many of the buzzwords today and tell you about what's really happening. What our customers that produce all of that chocolate and all of that beer and all of that electricity, how they're getting value from taking advantage of this change as well as all these new trends and technologies. You know, as you saw in the video and as we all know, the economy is a roller coaster ride, but if you keep a long-term vision and you stick to that, but you're ready to adapt when you really need to, then you can survive for a long time. You know, I joined SAP through an acquisition in 2001. We've made several acquisitions in the company since then, and it's because we're adapting, but we're maintaining our long-term view that we want to bring value to businesses. And we've adjusted that slightly now because of the proliferation of so much consumer technology in business, that we actually want to extend the value beyond just providing it to business, but provide it through those businesses or even directly to consumers as well. We actually have 2 apps, just SAP apps, on the iTunes store now that are directly to the consumer. One of those is an app called Recalls Plus. It allows people who are worried about the products they buy. Say you have children, you can scan the barcodes of the products you buy for your kids, like toys, prams, and so on. And the app will tell you if there's a recall on those, if there's a problem with them, so that you're safe that something's not going to damage your child or a foodstuff or so on. So it's something which we decided was something that might be an innovation that people like, and there's over, I think, 50,000 people downloaded it in the US so far, and we're expanding it to other markets. But it's an example of how we're changing, how we're looking at where we can bring value. Instead of being the boring accounting software that just counts numbers at the back, we've got an awful lot more to add to people. And I think change is not going to stop. You know, obviously, politically, there's a lot of change going on in the world, and that can impact policies and economies and so on. But it's ours to take advantage of. Hong Kong is a busy metropolis. I live in Singapore. I've been there 10 years, and that's got busier. But Hong Kong has always been busy. And it's a different energy level when you come here. It's great. But when we think now about how people benefit from technology, it's everywhere. Yeah, Hong Kong's always had the big screens on the walls and a lot of broadband and mobile connectivity, but now there's so much power in the hands of the customer. Whether that is a consumer walking through the streets or it's someone who's providing a service to a customer in Hong Kong or somewhere else in the world, the ability to take advantage of that consumer technology as a platform to do business is an extension of doing business back at headquarters. The reason that we acquired Sybase to get a first mover advantage in this area of mobile technology is because business in the moment is what people want to do today. They don't want to wait for, I must go back to the office and do that, or I must call this customer service line and wait for them to give me an answer. People want to do things now, straight away. And they want everything behind that mobile device through the wireless connectivity to give them the response, whether it's an answer to a question or the production of some kind of transaction that gives them a result. That's what we're talking about now. It's real-time business is one way of describing it, but a lot of it is the joined-up connectivity with the platform itself that's growing more powerful in people's hands, as well as everything at the back end that needs to scale to a new level of performance and service quality, much more than it's done so far, much more than we've provided in the past. And this is why, again, parts of the Sybase acquisition, parts of the technology we've invented recently is to make the back end better so it can provide the service levels and the quality of this experience in this new connected world. Innovation leads to new things, and a lot of our customers have demonstrated new products, new services, new ways of doing business with business models, and we're trying to lead and show that way. And my discussion today to you is going to be about some of the stories of people who are actually doing things, really doing things. That none of the things I tell you today are slideware, vaporware, just stories. They're actual things that people are doing. But it's all about better business, all about how we as SAP can help you with the ideas and the technologies we're going to explain today to go back into your worlds and think about how your businesses can improve and get a market advantage by using all of this. We have the picture of the birds on the back here, and this is a similar one on the screen. One of the problems with this world of doing everything real time and doing everything with, as the video said, more and more information all the time, is you can get overwhelmed with everything. What do you do first? What do you choose? What's the optimal way of doing something? What is the real problem in amongst all of this stuff that's hitting me all the time? And the ability to zoom in to a level of detail, find the root cause and take advantage of that or fix it, has been a struggle and is continuing to be more of a struggle. We identified this when we acquired Business Objects. We started understanding more and more about what people want to do with information. And information generation has exploded, so there's more and more information being produced all the time, and we're having to manage more of that. And the back-end infrastructure has started to creak a little. People's expectations are starting to not get met by the existing technology. So the ability to bring some clarity to that level of detail and take advantage of that is really where we've been focused, and this is why we've invented our in-memory database and taken that slightly different way to what other people do and brought that to market. Some of the stories I'll talk about here leverage that particular innovation quite strongly. And when combined with everything else we're doing, that's really where the true value comes from. So I'll talk a little bit about how we remove bottlenecks from all of this process, because a lot of the legacy infrastructure, and I'm not just talking about software, I'm also talking about the hardware, that legacy infrastructure sort of puts some speed bumps in the way. We'll talk about how this can help you to change your business model and also flip it even. Not just change it a little bit, but actually make a complete difference to the way that you serve your customers or think about how you provide services and products. So the first one is all about how do we speed things up? How do we make things better so that organizations can take advantage of all this power and information and technology and scale? Well, one example here, Colgate-Palmolive. Everybody knows this brand and the products. You use a lot of these things. Globally, they have tens of thousands of products, transactions, all this kind of stuff. Their challenge, until just last year, was which, really at a micro level, at an individual product level in a particular market, how successful are we? We can see that we're doing really well from the high level, but when we want to really drill down and see the true impact of a marketing spend or the true impact of a flavor change, brand change, or a new product, that was very difficult for them, just because of the sheer scale and volume of information that was produced from the transactions of their sales business. They run on SAP ERP, and they run COPA, of course, which is our controlling and posting general ledger. And the boring old general ledger was where all the information was stored. But what we did with Colgate-Palmolive, they were one of the first customers of our new in-memory database, HANA. And during a proof of concept, we loaded all the data down to an individual transaction level from their Latin America business. And we were practicing and building a story on which demo should we show, which dashboards. And we as our team was going through the data, we kind of thought something doesn't look quite right, but we don't know why, but we'll save that. And so we did the nice glossy presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we said, but we came across this anomaly. We can't quite tell, we don't understand, but maybe it's useful to you. And they said, oh yeah, that's actually something we've been trying to do for 6 months in our data warehouse, but we haven't been able to do that because the old data warehouse is too slow or didn't have the capability to give us that. And it was allowing them to see at a very, very low level how the business was running and give that power to the people in the field to make decisions before it ran out of control and wasted money. So this massive use of information in new ways can, when you actually apply this new technology to just old stuff, the combination actually can change the way people think about how to take advantage of this. And a lot of the restrictions we've found on stories like this is people just thought it wasn't possible to do what they wanted, so they didn't do it. Because the old infrastructure couldn't do it. Or it could if you threw an awful lot of money at it. Yeah, their problem was that their old data warehouse was expensive and needed a lot of people to look after it, and if you did something new, it might break. Yeah? And it was never going to give them the performance they wanted unless they spent millions on faster, better hardware, and that didn't justify the result. With HANA, our in-memory database, it changed the game completely. It gave them what they wanted immediately at a very low price point, low complexity, changed the game. It showed them what was possible by taking a new innovation and applying it to something old. And it does change people's idea of what's possible. So one of the original stories of this new technology approach. This is another one. This was the world's first customer of our in-memory database up in Japan, the Nomura Research Institute. And they're one of the most well-respected IT service organizations in Japan. They hire the best graduates and everybody wants to work for them. And they do a lot of interesting work. And they were working on this idea of trying to optimize taxi routes. Because there's congestion in Tokyo. It's a busy city, just like in Hong Kong. So they're saying, well, how can we optimize taxi routes? How do you optimize traffic flow in general, this kind of stuff? And they actually ended up building a crowdsourced routing system on HANA, which took all of the data from the taxis in live streams. So there's about 15,000 taxis that have what's called a telematics device. It broadcasts where the taxi is, how fast it's going, where it's headed, and so on. And they take all of that. And they actually extended that to an iPhone app that consumers could download and switch on and say, yes, I'll share my data. And they took all this data. Now, they tried to do that on a normal SQL database, on a normal high-performance box. But it calculated that it wasn't feasible because of the amount of hardware power they would need to configure to get the performance they wanted, and the amount of space they needed in the traditional model to do this on disks and so on. They actually changed that and put it into HANA and did actually realize that it was possible to do it. And they crowdsourced all this data, and then in real time, they could tell a taxi where to go to avoid the traffic jam that it was building up or was going to build up as a result of them predicting where all the taxis were going to be at a particular time. Again, it's something that they wanted to do, but they were held back by the old technology approach, where everybody thinks, yeah, I need to take data, I need to store it, I need to, that story has changed. And you will see today a lot of stories about how that change is making things just completely different in the way you can approach solving these kinds of problems. T-Mobile is another one. T-Mobile, you will know, I think, as a German company originally, but it expanded into the US, and it was going through a merger, and it was hurting its brand. And customers were leaving because they had uncertainty, and they didn't know what to do about this, and so they said, well, we need to just have better customer service. We need to reach out to those customers, offer them something to make them stay. But how do they do that when it's just so many customers disappearing at the same time? The traditional approach is, well, let's go through the database and let's work out what offer, and when before the customer disappears, let's do something. But that's spreadsheets, calls, get on the phones and things. They were able, with HANA, to, when the customer called to cancel the contract or created that event, in real time, they were able to go to the customer and say, wait a minute, before you go, how about I do this for you? Give you a new offer, give you a new package, immediately stop you leaving in real time through a combination of the customer's history, what they'd done, their spending power, what contract they were on, what other options were available to them. And they stopped the flow, the outflow of their customers by being able to respond to that immediate event. And this was something where they came to us for help, and we did it, and it actually helped their business in a very short period of time. Those were examples of people doing things straight away. But it's when you come then and say, well, what does this power give me? Now that I've unleashed this and I don't have any barriers anymore to producing new things or doing things with information, now what do I do with all of this stuff? It gives us the ability to think differently. Tim Ferriss, if you don't know him, he's a guy famous for writing, or doing an awful lot of research. He does a massive amount of analysis personally and then writes about his experiences. And he's famous for his first book, which was The 4-Hour Workweek. And he kind of flipped the business model. Instead of writing another book about a particular topic, he published a list of all the titles that he'd like to write, and then everybody voted on which one they'd buy, and then he wrote the book. So he changed the way about thinking about writing as well. And his next one was The 4-Hour Body. But he does an awful lot of amount of analysis before he then produces these books and makes them recommendations to change his life and other people's lives. And he's flipped the way that people think about a normal career or a normal fitness plan or those kinds of just business ideas. And those things can be applied now to our existing businesses without too much disruption initially, but obviously you may end up doing a lot of disruption as a result. One example here is this is a map of an airport, and the red is actually individual dots of mobile phone signals of people at the airport during a period. I think it's so many hours, and where the dots have gone and moved to and stopped and started. So looking at it like this, it's overwhelming. What do you do with all of that? Okay, a lot of people have obviously passed through the airport. What could I possibly do with that information? Well, you can map that information because phones have GPS devices, they're broadcasting that to the network, so the network's capturing all this information. But who could use that information? Well, the telco could use it, of course, to optimize cell sites and stuff. But what if you take that to the airport operator, the retail side of the business, and say, well, I can look at that information and I can determine where people go, not just where people go, but how long they spend in a particular place. You can even now get down to very micro level, like it would know whether I'm standing here or I'm standing over here in a particular place in the airport, in a shop, say, for example. And then you can look at how long people stay in a particular place. So you could then identify where the optimum places are for people buying things or where they stand for conversations or whatever, and then change the model of how you charge for that location in the airport, or what it is that you put in that location in the airport. You can match that to what's already there and think about how you change things. Think about that if somebody's going into a retail store and always going to buy, say, Clinique as a particular brand, and that's the most popular place that people stand and browse, does it make sense to put it at the front of the store for convenience, or at the back of the store, so everybody has to walk past all the other things that are on offer and make impulse buys before they get that? How's that going to change the volume or the purchases? So it's a different way of thinking, but it's made possible by the fact that you can go down to this level of visibility. One of the things that I'm doing at SAP at the moment is I'm running a startup program. This is something very new for SAP. We're reaching out to the market and we're recruiting startups to build new applications on our technology. And one of them is actually doing a lot of stuff with this kind of information in real-time promotions through the mobile phone based on where somebody is walking past a brand or a storefront or a coffee shop or whatever, because that information's there. You just have our HANA at the back end giving you enough real-time crunching power to sense that an event is happening and provide the calculation that says, I'll give you 5% off a coffee if you come here now, or I'll buy 2 of these and you'll get 20% off. That real-time thinking about how you process the events, some model data, but mostly real-time stuff, is possible now. And a lot of the startup companies I'm working with are doing things like this. By the way, if you know any startups in Hong Kong, I'm recruiting, and I'd love to talk to them more about this as well. There's an awful lot of things about social these days as well. We're not just talking about transactions and mobile phone signals and stuff, but what do people say about business? The sentiment, the comments, the free text, the conversations that people have on Weibo, on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of the different social medias. That's now business. That's part of business that you can't ignore. And there's lots of stories about how you do things, but this is an interesting one. Chobani is a Greek yogurt provider, and their business is got different flavors, and they thought, great, our vanilla yogurt is bestseller, so we'll make more vanilla yogurt, and we'll put that on more of the shelves. And that was based on the sales statistics. So yeah, my business is running well, sales performance tells me vanilla yogurt is the best thing that I should sell. Then they said, okay, well, there's a lot of people talking about our yogurt, so let's have a look at what they're saying. And they looked through the social media data, and they actually found that people really loved pineapple yogurt. Like, but everybody's buying vanilla yogurt. Why do they prefer pineapple yogurt, but they're buying vanilla yogurt? And so they took a look through, they decided, well, let's analyze what they're actually saying. Okay, so we can see that pineapple yogurt's popular, but why is it not matching our sales statistics? Let's dig into what the context is they're actually talking about, rather than saying it's good, what? And they looked at all the social text analysis. Well, this is a partnership we have with a company called NetBase. So within the SAP Business Intelligence portfolio, we have this ability to take Twitter feeds and analyze all of the Twitter feeds in real time. And based on a large history of the Twitter feeds as well that are stored by NetBase. And they figured out, actually, that the reason people buy vanilla yogurt is because they run out of pineapple yogurt. They wanted to buy pineapple yogurt, but vanilla was on the shelf. So, well, I like the yogurt, I'll buy vanilla, but I actually wanted pineapple. So they made more pineapple, now they sell more pineapple, and they still sell vanilla, but they now understand the customer. So the customer, they've improved the brand loyalty. So before somebody else came along and said, oh, vanilla, that people like pineapple Greek yogurt, I will create a competitive product and put it on the shelf next and take away sales. They found out that they should be making pineapple yogurt instead. And that's where reaching out to this world of social information can be useful for your business. Your internal signals are telling you good things. And if they're telling me good things, why should I worry? Well, in this case, a competitor could have taken advantage of that external information and destroyed their business, or it impacted their business. So you now need to listen outside, maybe a little bit more sometimes, to inside. It actually has not changed anything, has it? At the end of the day, you should always listen to the customer. You should always talk to the customer. And actually, I was at a talk the other evening of a very well-renowned entrepreneur in Singapore, and he said, get out, talk to the customer. Don't stay in your office. Even if you're building a brand new startup business, go out, talk to the customer first. And this is what this allows you to do. Social analytics is listening to the customer. What are they saying? And it's a great channel for you to then merge that with your business data and improve the way things work. Now, everyone's a shopper. I popped into Zara yesterday myself, but they're a global retail brand. But how, again, through physical stores, okay, there's e-commerce, yeah, but not everybody is comfortable buying online. And not everybody can make it to a store, so how do you sort of, improve that experience using the social side of things? Well, this is actually the other app that SAP has produced as a consumer app that's now on the China iTunes store. It's actually called My Fashion. This is the prototype version, but if you go to the Chinese iTunes store, you can download this app called My Fashion, and it allows you, as a consumer, mostly female, but guys can do it as well, you take pictures of your stuff and you load them up, and there's other people doing the same, and then you can share your combinations of dresses with shoes, with handbags, with scarves, and your favorites, and other people can vote on those favorites, and you can say where you bought it from. And what it does is it produces data on the preferences, the fashion preferences of people, that then the retailers or the product suppliers can take advantage of. So everybody's preferring red shoes at the moment. I better make more red shoes. Or brown handbags, or short dresses, or long dresses. So it's producing a social collection of information, particularly with the voting mechanism, so you get the preferences all coming together. And this is an app we created with some retailers, and we've now published it as a public app, and that data is then coming in for us to share to help people improving the way that they're serving this particular demographic of consumer. So how does all of that stuff allow you to rethink business? What do you do that's different with it, and how can you do things that are different? Well, here's one example when you start combining technology with the old world and the new world and the power of it. Yeah? So it's a shop. I'm looking at that shop, and I'm the regional manager, say, and I go in. And in the old days, even now still, you go in and you have your inventory and your sales report. Maybe if you're lucky, you've got a tablet, but they're still PDF, so you have to scroll through the PDF. And, okay, so what's the SKU for that dress? Okay, how many did we sell? What about this store? Is it the same as the store in the next city or in the next mall? And you're stood there, you're trying to piece all these pieces of information together in order to assess the performance of the store or the location of that rack or something like that. So the store, you can improve the way the store works. What you can do instead is just put it all on a device. These devices are powerful enough now. So this is augmented reality. It's where the phone's camera is used as the window to the store, and as you hold the camera up, you scroll it around the store, and using the accelerometer in the phone and the camera, and then connected to an SAP app, to all of that data I talked about before, it's using image recognition and the positioning information, because you've mapped the store already, to say, oh yeah, that particular dress I recognize, I'll go and load the data and I can see how many were sold, whether it's better than the average, lower than the average. All that information is now there as I can have a conversation with the store manager about how we can improve things or why something is going really well that I can share with another store. And this is real. This is not a prototype. This is actually something that if you go to Amsterdam, you can download an app and walk down a street and you can see the prices of all the houses and which one's for sale. That's been there for well over 12 months. We just brought the same idea into business, and you can build that in any situation. There's another startup that I've worked with out of the US, and in fact, you'll see on one of the stands in the next room that I noticed this morning, they have a high-def camera, and I love the idea of a high-def camera that will recognize your face and trigger all the information about you if you're a VIP. So that the customer service rep, as you step out the taxi or your limo or your Rolls-Royce on the doors to the mall, it will ping, Mr. So-and-so is coming, and the customer service rep can go and greet you straight away with all the information about your purchase history, which shops you might like, what offers you might like. Again, customer service experience, knowing the customer. Now, take a look, it's possible. But the data will get bigger. The stuff that the service wants to do will get better, and the technology behind it will be able to deliver all of that. That's a combination of our business intelligence tools, as well as the in-memory database to really serve up that very quickly. Another example here is the Charité Hospital, which is Europe's largest research hospital. And of course, when you go to a hospital, there's doctors, nurses, specialists, and all the information's all over the place. And usually it's a paper chart at the bottom of the bed. What Charité decided to do was try and iPad everything and put it all on a tablet. And we worked with them very closely on this so that everything about a patient is accessible from an iPad interface in real time. So all the histories, everything else, every single patient record every piece of information is a single electronic patient record and available on the iPad. So now, whether it's a nurse or a doctor, they all carry these iPads, no paper, and they walk around. When they walk into a room, then they can scroll, find the patient details. They can look at all the test results that have come through automatically from the lab posted to the patient record. They can go and have a look at the x-rays and zoom in, of course, because it's high-def retina displays, so you don't need a chart on the wall, and where did that x-ray go? When it's scratched, it doesn't look good anymore. It's been scanned at high res. And then they can take photographs of progress and things, so a subsequent doctor or specialist can take a look, or somebody off-site can take a look and do something with this. And it's this is actually something which exists. It's not a prototype. It's actually something they're running, and that we sell to other healthcare providers as a combination of, again, our business intelligence tools, scanning technologies, and the ability on these devices to have all of this. And you may ask, well, what if somebody loses the iPad? What happens if all that sensitive information is lost and it's on the iPad? Well, actually, we have a product for that, believe it or not. So, part of the Sybase acquisition was a product called Afaria, which secures mobile devices. So it extends the IT governance footprint from what you have today as, say, a standard laptop or desktop configuration to a standard or semi-standard mobile configuration. But it allows you to enforce policies on the device to protect the device. Say the password has to be 8 characters with an uppercase, lowercase combination of whatever. It can force apps to be removed. It can force apps to be installed. And if you lose the device, which the system thought I did this morning, it will wipe it for you. And fortunately, one phone call, my device is fully back up to speed again, because it can do all of this stuff. We actually at SAP in Singapore were the first location globally to go live on our bring your own device policy. So my phone is actually my personal phone, but I've enrolled in the company's Afaria, and it therefore knows it's me, can authenticate me, and I'm part of the corporate. But I get to choose. So now I can choose between a BlackBerry, an Apple device, or a Samsung device. Some can be provided by the company, or if I prefer, not the Galaxy S3, but something else, I can bring that. And I can enroll in the system, and in fact, it's all self-service. There's no IT person. I just go onto our portal, type in my phone ID, download an app, and the whole thing is automatic. So as people move to more of this variety of technology on the hardware side, you still can incorporate them in the way the business works. And I like this example of if you're, say, in the field. So say you give all of your staff in the field, say the customer service guy we just saw in the retail store, he's using an iPhone. All right, and he drops his iPhone in the store and it cracks and stops working. What does he do? We go back to head office and get another one, and IT installs it? No, he just goes next door to the Apple store, gets an iPhone, switches it on, downloads an app, logs in, he gets all his apps, and he can carry on his day. If it's not an iPhone, what if the Apple store's closed or they've run out? Well, he then goes to the Samsung store, and he gets his Galaxy S3, and he downloads the app, and he logs in, and off he goes. Yeah? Because it's all done. He doesn't have to wait for IT to courier one and set it up. This is the power of the technology that we have today, particularly with these mobile platforms, is continuity, security, and all of the stuff behind it to deliver that content is possible. It's here, it's real, and you will see many more of these examples as you go through the day and look at our partners next door as well. So I hope I've sparked your interest and given you some vision of not the future, but today. And the future really is unlimited by what you think. And also, if you know any good startups, they're thinking even further, and they're really exciting us as well. I'd love to take any questions from you when we have the break. I'll be here most of the day. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions. So thank you very much for listening to me.